today we're going to do another video about some guitar basics, and this is going to have to do with similar topic of the last video, which is the caged system. So basically all the basic open chords that we all know when we first learn guitar: C, A, G, E, D, all those kinds of chords. So they're spelt out in a certain way that is memorized as caged because they're in a certain order. You can watch that video. Let's jump right into it. So if we're talking about that system, here is all of the chords. So this is our cage system. All the links will be down below. This is a great website, Guitar Scientist, so thanks to them. Check it out. You can mess around with a lot of things on here. So let's get started. So we're going to be using the cage system. So we have C chord, and these are all our common chords that we know. So let's turn the guitar on. So here we go. The first one's C. And like I said, we're going to be doing these because these are the basic building blocks of all the rest of the shapes that we're going to be learning. So if we go over just the chord shapes, these are the caged chord shapes. We all know these. And if you don't, go ahead and learn them now. So here's a C, A, G, E, and D. And notice how if you slide the E chord up, you get an F chord. There's a top part of that same chord. Roots. There's the root there, again there, and you can play, a lot of people play right here again. So these are all our building blocks. You can slide these up. And if you see, this is a C major chord, C shape, A major, A shape. So this is a shape that we're going to slide up and down. So when you do it all in C, you get these shapes. All of these bottom notes, if you notice, we changed the note names. So that's a cool feature on this program. You can do numbers, nothing, or you can do note names. And C major A shape, C major G shape. So you notice how all these shapes come from these open position chords. That's why we call them by their corresponding shape from the open position. So this is what looks like an E chord when you slide it down. This looks like a D chord, but now you're in C because the root is on a C. Notice all these red dots, the roots, are on C. So using these chords, you can build all the other types of chords, really, if you really want to get into it. And that's exactly what we're going to do. So we're going to start with the root on the D string. And what that means is we're going to use our D shape. So there's our root, a 1. In this case, it's like we said, it's in D, D major, 1 sharp. So if we think of them in numbers, we get the 1. There's our 3. It's a 1, 3, 5 chord, right? So we have, there's our chord. Now if we want to flatten this 3, we get a minor chord. So a flat 3 is minor. So now it's a D minor triad. It's no longer D major. So this 3 goes down to a flat 3, which used to be an F sharp. So F sharp now is an F. You flattened it, taking away that sharp. Now if we do numbers again, we can do 7th chords, which is the next level of a chord. A chord, it's a triad is a 1, 3, 5, 3 notes in the chord. Then you have 7th chords, which are the next level of harmony. You just add another consecutive note from the scale. 1, 3, 5, 7. You know, if you did all the chords, it'd be 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 5, 7, 9, so on and so forth. So we do this one, you get a D major chord. You can just drop this 1 from here down to a major 7. And like I said, watch that other video. We discussed the chords and the scales and how you can see what's in the major scale. So there's only certain positions, and again, they're all based off these open position caged system chords. So when you talk about these ones, and you put them in the same key like this one was, and how that video does. So going back, now we did major, flatten the 3 for minor. You can do a D major 7. We add 1, 3, 5, 7. Now listen, you just move that 1 down to a 7, and you get a major 7 chord. So you went from 2, which is a nice sound. Then if you want, you can flatten the 7. So just move it down one more and you get what's called a dominant 7th chord, a flat 7. So then you get this sound. All right? So that's a dominant chord. It's very bluesy, right? That's what you're going to be playing when you do a lot of that stuff. So the next system is we're going to do not only a flat 7, we're going to flatten the 3 as well. This is how you get a minor 7th chord. Flat 3, flat 7. So, you know what? Maybe we can zoom in. Oh, here we go. So flat 3, flat 7. Now, if we take it one step further, we're going to do what's literally called a minor 7, flat 5. So we literally do that. You flatten the 5 also. Now this is known as a minor 7, flat 5. There's the chord symbol, and or this is the same symbol, shorthand. It's known as a half diminished 7th chord. Minor 7, flat 5, or half diminished 7th chord. 1, flat 3, flat 5, flat 7. Now the only other permutation we could do is we're going to do a double flat 7, otherwise known as a 6. If you flatten this 7 down twice, you go to a 6. In this shape, it actually lends well because you can actually play it. On some of these other shapes, the 6 is going to be off the fretboard. So we'll have to move it up just to kind of compensate. And you'll see what I mean. But there's a diminished chord. So like I said, these links are all there. You can go through them, check it out. It all started from this triad, our D shape, roots on the D string. So you can slide any of these up. So watch. If I slide this up, let me zoom out real quick. If I slide this up, there's my root, and I want to transpose it. So this is what you can do on guitar. You can move it up, right? Let's go to key centers. Now look at, there's an E chord, F sharp major, G sharp major, A sharp, B flat, B, C major, so on, right? So just like that, you can slide these up. So that's what I'm doing. You know, if you want to go up, that's where capo comes in. You know, you don't need it, but it does come in handy, especially when you're doing cool things where you're playing multiple notes at once. Because of a capo, it would be impossible to do. So it's a cool tool. This is what's happening. Now you can do this from the D string, the A string, or the E string. So if we went to the A string, well, here's a whole nother chart. Like I said, they're all linked in the video. The shapes from the root on the A string. So now, like I said, we can slide all these shapes. And I did mostly 4-note voicings. You can add this 5th voice. And in the E chord, you can add one more on top of it because you get one more string. If you want, you can add those. I just did these as 4-note voicings because that's a little bit simpler, and that's kind of what you tend to use, especially when you're comping chords on a jazz tune or something. So, or anything really. I mean, it could be rock and roll tune. You know, you're not going to play the entire chord every time. So, here's our A triad. We all know this one, right? Now, notice the order of the notes are in the same order, 1, 5, 1, 3. It's the nature of the instrument. If we jump ahead and go to the E shape, well, look at it's 1, 5, 1, 3, and there's a couple extra notes that you can add because you gain extra strings, right? If you had your A note here, you would lose a string. So, but notice how on the D, you even have, let me zoom out for the numbers. You even have the same order also. 1, 5, 1, 3. 1, 5, 1, 3. You could add a 5 there, like I said. And then look at this one, 1, 5, 1, 3, and then you have a couple extra notes, which usually are barred because it's the E. You're going lower, so you have some more strings. So let's go back to the A shape. There we are. A shape. Right? Now if I wanted to, same principle. Make it minor, flatten the 3. Right? So that's what you're getting. And you could play all that like I did. I played this high E string if you want. You don't have to. You could include it. You're going to end up barring this anyway, so you most likely will. If you want a major 7th chord, just like the same technique, just flatten the 8 or the 1 down to a 7. And you get this. Now if you want dominant, flatten the 7. Right? If you want a minor 7, flatten the 3 and the 7. Right? There's your chord. Remember, you know, like I said, you can do the high E if you want, which is this note. So that's part of the chord still. A half diminished is a minor 7 flat 5. So flatten the 5 one more from here. Look what you get. You get this shape. Right? It's a very common shape for, especially for like half diminished chords. I mean, I'm sorry, 2-5, minor 2-5s where you're going to use half diminished. So now in order to get a fully diminished, well, we can't flatten the 7 one more time. We've run out of room. So because of that, we're just in a certain key where you know there's no more notes. The frets run out. So you would have to, you know, in order to play an A diminished right here, you would either have to revoice it or you'd have to, you know, kind of change the way you're playing it. In this case, we're just gonna move it up. We moved it up to a C, and I redid the root note so you see the right numbers. And look what you have. You have the same principle. This is where that flat 7 was. Now we just double flat it, and there's a 6. So this is the shape you get. Like I said, this is from C, because this is our new root, because we ran out of string room, you know, we ran out of frets. So that's what you end up getting, diminished. And this is the one that you can move. You know, you can move all these, but this one specifically has a certain, you know, scheme to it. But notice how that just slides. So those are all the chords on the A string. Now there's only one more string to get everything. And now if we go through this, now we're on strings with the root on the E string. So check out the link. And now on this one, I actually did highlight the top 2 that, you know, I didn't in the 1 in the A string. You're going to end up playing these because, like I said, this is a bar. You're going to have to refinger everything. So maybe we can look into that in a second. So E major, triad, very common, right? Okay, now if we want to flatten the 3, we get a minor triad. Now notice we're only playing 1s, 3s, and 5s in all this. There are some repeats. So it's not just 3 notes, but it's like literally, but it is just 3 notes harmonically. It's 1, 3s, and 5s. So that's why it's a triad. Now, if we want to get a major 7 chord, now this is why I didn't do these 2, because if you wanted to play just a 4-note voicing in order to finger it correctly, you know, you're going to play E major 7. And maybe we can go over some of the fingerings once we're done with this. So let's just continue and we'll go over them. So you drop the 1 down, you get a 7. So that's a major 7 voicing. Now, again, you don't have to play all these, but in this case you might, because this is a very common chord for dominant. So in this case, you would bar this. When you slide it up, you're going to play this as a bar a lot, especially this top portion right here. Right? You can play just this because it has all the notes in it. You don't need a low note. So when you're comping or playing with a bass player, you tend to play this portion a lot. At least I do. It's very common. So dominant, all we do is flatten the 7. This was major 7, you know, right here. We're going to flatten the 7. And this tends to have a whole bar, like I said. So the next one is flat 7 with a flat 3. You get a minor chord, minor 7. Now again, you don't need to play these all the time, but you tend to because it's in the bar. So minor 7 flat 5, flatten the 5, and you get that same sound. Now it starts to get really muddy down here. It's really low and muddy, so these things can be moved up. You don't tend to always use these voicings on the E string, but like I said, these are just options. You can use portions of them. These are going to help your playing. So again, we've run out of room. We can't double flat this 7 to get diminished. So what you're going to have to do is you tend to have to move this root. So what we're going to do is we're gonna transpose. Sorry, I was looking for the button. Oh, and I lost it again. There it is. So we're going to transpose this low one. If I can move this thing, it's being weird. Okay, let's try this. Oh God, it's still being weird. Okay, well, let's move this so you can see it real quick. So I'm going to transpose up. So notice how it moves. So let's move it to let's move it all the way up to a C note. So that way we can see the numbers correctly. So let's make the root right there now. So notice how all the numbers changed. Now we moved it to that key. That's what that means. So notice the numbers are the same. We want, instead of half diminished, we want a fully diminished chord. So we're going to put that one there. So let's make it red. And now what you get is you're going to tend to not play these ones, especially on this voicing. So there's your C diminished, which is a double flat 7. Or otherwise known as a 6. So there's your C, and we can re-voice, you know, these would probably be called like that, and harmonically spelled. So then you get this sound. Now if you want to see the MIDI guitar, this is where, you know, that's the voicing you're using. So let's go over how to finger these so you can see how I'm kind of playing them, now that we kind of understand them. So let's go back. Let's do a quick crash course again, but from a different view. Now let's talk about all these. So here's the MIDI keyboard. So the first shape is our C shape, and you know what? Let's go ahead and pull up the window capture. What am I looking for? So let's do this. Let's do. Now we can talk about writing it out later, but let me go ahead and find. That's the one I want. Okay. So now let's just make this smaller. And we'll zoom in. Okay. Now if we're going to talk about the caged chords, these are all the systems we're using, right? So here we had our C chord, which would look like this, right? Let's fix this so you can see it. Our C chord looks like this. Okay, so we're gonna finger that like this. Now, if you want to slide them up, which the other video kind of shows, you got to refinger them. So you're playing this. This is where your capo comes in. Now you can slide these. Okay, so that we kind of already covered that in the last video, but in order to, we're going to use all these basic shapes that we already know. So let's go through it real quick. The D shape. That's our basis for all the other chords we're going to do. So there's our D shape. We drop the 1. We drop, let's start with the 3. We drop the 3 down to minor to make it D minor. So that's how I'm doing it. And then we're going to do major 7. We drop the 1 down to a 7. So you get this. Now if you're going to refinger these, you got to be aware of that kind of stuff. So now if I want to do a dominant chord, all right, so how do you slide it up? Well, you got to refinger them. Pretend you're playing this root note. All right, so now we're going to, so there's a C dominant chord right there. Right? That's very Hendrixy, right? So minor 7, we're going to do flatten the 7 and the 3. So in order to slide it, you just refinger them. You get the same thing. So minor 7 flat 5, Now, if I was to slide this, I tend to play them like that. Right? That's what you're going to play them in, something like that. So, diminished. Now if you want to refinger it, look what I did there. I just pretend I'm playing the open strings. You can slide them up, get different chords. Okay, now the A string. A lot of times if I'm playing open A, I'm going to be lazy and I'm going to do it like this. Especially when I'm, So, sorry guys, my amp's being stupid today. You can probably hear the noise. So, there's that. Now if I want to refinger to make it minor, drop the 3, drop the 1 to make major 7. If I slide it up, just refinger it. Look at that. C major, because that's my C note. Right? Now if I want dominant, flatten the 7. So I went from here, I want to do the 7. 1, 7, flat 7. And you get a dominant chord. A minor, flatten the 3 and the 7, right? So you end up getting this. Now if you want to refinger it, just slide up. Well, it's pretty easy because you end up doing this. Roots down here. So there's C minor 7. Because that's my C. Just like that's A minor 7, because that's my A. So, half diminished. If you want to refinger it, it's basically the diminished shape, up a set of strings, and now down. Interesting, because of the way it's tuned. Now, if we remember, we run out of room, so we can't double flat that 7 again because we've run out. It's already an open string. We can't detune it. So we're just going to slide it up to a C. So pretend this C, or this is a half diminished. Pretend we want to make this C diminished. We put it to the 3rd fret. So we go from here, because that's our A, B flat, B, half diminished, C, half diminished. Now if I want C half diminished and I want diminished, we'll just flatten this 7, double flat to a 6. There's C diminished. Now, if we do this with the last set of chords, here's E. So there's all our E shapes. So we got E. Right? Now, if we do a 4-note voicing, we're just doing the bottom 4, really. You can add the top, like I said. Flatten the 3. If I want to refinger it, just like the other video showed you, there's C major, or C minor. Right? Flatten the 3, major, flatten the 3, minor. So you can hear it move. Minor triad. Now if we want major 7, we flatten the 1. This should be a D sharp. That's actually inharmonically spelled incorrectly. So what we want is notation, and then we're going to go here, and we're going to respell that E flat to a D sharp. So there it is. So you get this sound. So right there, I'm kind of flattening my first finger to get these two. But you can either do this. So when you slide it up, say you're in C, or you could just flatten it like this. It's up to you. I don't know. So there, that's what I was doing back there because I'm lazy. Now again, let's keep going. If you want dominant, well, you flatten the 7. So take this 7. Let's go back to numbers. You're going to take this 7 and flatten it to flat 7, and you get this shape. All right. Now if I want to refinger it, you can slide it all the way up to C. There's C dominant. That one you tend to play a lot because you're going to do, that kind of stuff. So here's E minor 7, flatten the 7 and the 3. Then you only have one note to finger. Now if you slide it up, then that's how you get this. That's a voicing you'll use all the time. E half diminished. Remember, this is where it gets muddy, so it starts to sound really dense and muddy just because it's low. Now we can't get this flat 7, a double flat 7. We can't get it because we ran out of strings. So I moved it up to C, like I said earlier, and this is what you end up getting. So if I was here and I had E half diminished, well, I can't flatten this more unless I detuned it, really. You know, I'm going to have to twist the things. So instead of that, well, I'm going to slide this shape up to a C. And then I'm going to flatten that 7 now. Double flat 7. There you go. C diminished 7. So that's kind of how I think about all these chords. And the reason you tend to use these shapes is because this is how you get all the other chord qualities, is what they're called. Major, minor, dominant, you know, half diminished, minor 7 flat 5, or diminished, right? So you tend to use all these in different songs, half diminished. So there's two different things I just played. I just played an E half diminished chord to an A7 dominant chord to a D minor chord, minor 7. Now if I wanted to do C minor and I wanted to add a 9, well, there it comes from. So like I said, this came from your E shape. I made it minor, flatten the 3, I made it minor 7, and then I added a 9. And all of a sudden you have C, minor 7, add 9. So this is how you start to get all these other chords. How do you get chords? Well, remember we talked about getting chords through stacking the notes in the scale, which was in the last video. So the scale being 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay, now if we had a scale, remember we said in the last video, C, D, E, F, G, A, B, C. And remember when we stack the chords, we do them in thirds, 1, 3, 5. Notice that's the third note and the fifth note in the scale. 2, 4, 6, so on. Whoops. And notice how they're all in the key of C because they're all natural notes. Now if I do this for all of them, that's what you get. Now if we do this on guitar, and that's how you use the different chord qualities. So you have C major. Now let's say I did them all as A shapes. So here's C major 7. Now if I want to make it a major 7, will you add another stack? 1, 3, 5, 7. And these are now 7th chords. Now notice the sound, they're a little more dense. Sounds nice. So if I did this in guitar language and I did them all on the A string, C major, 1, 3, 5, 7, 2, 4, 6, 8, 3, 5, 7, 9, 4, 6, 8, 10, 5, 7, 9, 5, 7, 9, 11, 6, 8, 10, 12, right? And then this one, if you want to do a 7th chord, you get B half diminished. And then you're back. And those are all on the A string. So I went major 7, minor 7, minor 7, major 7, dominant 7, minor 7, half diminished 7, fully 7, or major 7 again, right at the beginning. Now you can redo these. What if I want to do C here and D minor there? Well, I can. All right, see how that works? Now if I want to get there's different voicings. So these are all going to be useful. I could do C here. See, now I'm kind of running out of room. It's a little harder. All right, so you get remember those basic chords, because again, those are the building blocks of everything else, whether they're scales, triads, different chord qualities, seventh chords, and above, really. They're all going to build from these basic caged chord systems, really. So I hope that helps. Comment below and let me know what you guys think. And look out for some more videos. I'm going to just keep doing more of these. So if you have questions, let me know what's up. And thanks for watching. See you guys.